In the heart of the ancient Middle East, over 4,000 years ago, a man received a call, one that would change the course of human history. His name was Abraham, a man known today as the father of faith in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But who was Abraham, and why does his story still resonate with millions? Well, for starters, he was known as Abram before his name was actually changed to Abraham, and he was a descendant from the line of Shem. Remember, Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, from whom all the nations of the earth descended. In this video, we'll explore his fascinating life, his incredible journey of faith, and the challenges he faced. But to really understand Abraham, we need to start at the beginning. If you enjoy biblical stories and history of the Bible, please consider subscribing to this channel. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, like, and share with your family and friends. Now back to the video. Abraham was born in the city of Ur in ancient Mesopotamia, which is known as modern-day Iraq. However, some scholars believe that his family may have actually settled in Iran. Whether it was Iraq or Iran, the city of Ur was a bustling metropolis, but it was also a place deeply rooted in idol worship. Abram, however, would be called by a different voice, the voice of the one true God. In the book of Genesis, God called Abram to leave his homeland, his family, and everything familiar. God promised him something extraordinary. He would make Abram into a great nation and bless all the families of the earth through him. And so Abram, along with his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot, began a journey of faith into the land of Canaan. Abram's journey wasn't easy. He traveled hundreds of miles through harsh deserts and unfamiliar lands, eventually arriving in Canaan, the land that God had promised to his descendants. Abram's obedience to God became one of the defining traits of his life. But Abram wasn't perfect. He faced doubts and many hardships. After some time, the land of Canaan suffered a severe famine. So Abram took his wife Sarai and his household down into Egypt to escape the famine. Abram's wife Sarai was very beautiful. He feared that if the Egyptians knew that Sarai was his wife, he would be killed. So to protect himself and his family, Abram told Sarai to lie and say that she was his sister. But this brought trouble to Abram. When the Egyptian officials saw how beautiful Sarai was, they immediately informed Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh, also beholding her beauty, immediately took her into his palace to be his wife. It was the custom in those times that if a man takes a wife, a dowry would be given to the relatives. So Pharaoh, believing that Sarai was the sister of Abram, showered Abram with many servants and livestock. But Yahuwah was not happy with what Pharaoh did, so he sent many plagues upon Pharaoh and his entire household. Realizing that he had brought calamity upon his household, Pharaoh summons Abram and asked him why he lied about Sarai being his sister instead of his wife and brought about this plague. Pharaoh immediately tells Abram to take his wife and his household and leave Egypt. After leaving Egypt, Abram gained much more wealth. He had plenty of livestock, gold, and silver. Because of Abram's blessing, his nephew Lot also became wealthy, owning many livestock. But when they returned to Bethel in Canaan, there was not enough land in that area between Bethel and Ai to support the livestock of Abram and Lot, and there were ongoing arguments between the herdsmen of Lot and the herdsmen of Abram. To avoid further strife and animosity, Abram spoke to his nephew Lot and told him that it was best for them to part ways. As time passed, Abram and Sarai still had no children, and they were growing old. Abram began to doubt whether God's promise would ever come true, and so did his wife Sarai, until she decided to take matters into her own hands. She gave her Egyptian maidservant by the name of Hagar to her husband Abram. Abram agreed to Sarai's request and took Hagar as his wife, and she became pregnant. But this wasn't the child God had promised, and soon tensions arose within the family. Hagar began to treat Sarai with scorn during her pregnancy. Sarai turned around and blamed Abram for the way she was being treated by Hagar. But since Hagar was the maidservant of Sarai, Abram gave Sarai permission to reprimand Hagar in any way that she deemed fit. So Sarai treated Hagar harshly until Hagar decided to run away. While Hagar was in the wilderness, she was visited by an angel who asked her, "Where are you coming from? And where are you going?" Hagar told the angel that she was fleeing from her mistress because her mistress treated her harshly. But the angel advised Hagar that she should return to the home of her mistress, Sarai, and submit to her authority. The angel also informed Hagar that she would have more descendants than she could count. Furthermore, the child she is carrying would be named Ishmael, which means God hears, for Yahuwah has heard her cries. After her encounter with the angel, Hagar returned to the home of her mistress Sarai and Abram and gave birth to a son whom she named Ishmael. At the time of Ishmael's birth, Abram was 86 years old. Exactly 4 years later, when Abram was 90 years old, the Lord appeared to him once again and affirmed his covenant with him and his descendants. He said, "I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Serve me faithfully and live a blameless life. I will make a covenant with you by which I will guarantee to give you countless descendants." That's Genesis chapter 17 verses 1 to 2. So you see, this covenant was dependent on Abram's obedience to Yahuwah. He had to serve Yahuwah faithfully and live a blameless life. He could not live just any old lifestyle and expect Yahuwah to bless him. Abram knelt face down to the ground and humbled himself in the presence of Yahuwah. Then Yahuwah made an everlasting covenant with Abram and seals that covenant with a sign or mark that will last for generation to generation. And this mark was a mark of circumcision for all males. Through this covenant, God also changed his name from Abram to Abraham, signifying a change in status, a new level of elevation, which is the reason why Sarai's name also had to be changed to Sarah. Regarding Sarai, your wife, her name will no longer be Sarai. From now on, her name will be Sarah, and I will bless her and give you a son from her. Yes, I will bless her richly, and she will become the mother of many nations. Kings of nations will be among her descendants. That's Genesis chapter 17, verses 15 to 16. Then, just like God promised, in their old age, something miraculous happened. Against all odds, when Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90, they had a son, Isaac. Isaac was the child through whom God's promise will be fulfilled. This birth wasn't just a miracle, it was a testament to God's faithfulness and Abram's willingness to trust, even when it seemed impossible. But Abram's greatest test was yet to come. God asked Abram to sacrifice his beloved son Isaac. This was a test of ultimate faith. Would Abraham be willing to give up the very child through whom God had promised to bless the world? Just as Abram was about to sacrifice Isaac, an angel of the Lord intervened, saying, "Do not lay a hand on the boy." God had provided a ram for the sacrifice instead. This moment is seen as the pinnacle of Abraham's faith, and it foreshadowed God's future promise through another sacrifice. After some time, Sarah passed away. The scripture did not say whether she died of an ailment, but it was most likely due to old age. She was 127 years old when she passed away in the land of Canaan. Abraham mourned a long time in grief for his wife Sarah, and only after many years he finally made a decision to marry again. His wife was named Keturah. She gave birth to 6 sons, which became the ancestors of the Asherites and Midianites. Abram also had other concubines, and before he passed away, he gave all his wealth to Isaac, the promised son through his wife Sarah. But to the sons of his concubines he gave gifts, although the scripture does not say what those gifts were. He separated them from his son Isaac and sent them away just like his first son Ishmael, and they dwelt in the land of the east. Abraham's story doesn't end there. He lived to see Isaac grow and become the family line that would lead to the 12 tribes of Israel, and ultimately to the birth of Yahushua Messiah the Christ, through whom all believers receive the gift of salvation. Abraham lived a long and prosperous life. He died at the age of 175 and was buried by his sons Isaac and Ishmael in the burial plot that he had purchased from the Hittites. After the death of Abraham, Yahuwah blessed Isaac and he settled in the region near the Negev River, whilst his brother Ishmael and his descendants settled in a region known as Havilah, east of Egypt. Why does Abraham matter today? His life teaches us about faith, obedience, and the importance of trusting in something greater than ourselves. Whether you see Abram as a patriarch, a prophet, or a man of great faith, his story is one that transcends time and culture. Abraham's journey was filled with challenges, but it was also a journey filled with hope, promise, and trust. His story has been passed down through generations, inspiring millions to walk by faith and not by sight. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed learning about the life of Abram. Let me know in the comment section what part of Abram's story inspires you the most. Until next time, remember, knowledge is a blessing from above. We must nurture it to the fullest. Be blessed.